They've already sold the pass, and the Tory strategy now is trying to keep down the size of the Labour majority. By the way, that won't work. People don't vote to try and keep down the majority of the other side. It's not how it works. It's a complete waste of time. There's nothing the Tories will say will change the size of the Labour majority. I mean, if you spoke to Tory MPs a while back, they said if we ended up with 200 seats, that'd be a great result. Now they're saying the best they can hope for is around 1997, when they had about 167 MPs. Now, remember, that was the worst result the Conservatives have had since, I think, the 1830s under Lord Liverpool, or the 1820s. So the Tories are now saying that the best result they can hope for is equivalent to the worst result they've had in like 160, 170 years. And some are saying that even that's not attainable, that it'll be even lower than that. So that does leave it open to Labour, frankly, in the early days, to be able to do what it wants.
3 weeks out from an election with the campaign as of this morning. We've been speaking to senior politicians as normal. Unlike Grant Shapps, David Cameron is willing to entertain the idea that the Conservatives might actually win the election.
What I know is that the more people who vote Conservative, the better chance we will have. I mean, I remember fighting the election in 2015, and people said I didn't have a chance, and we were behind in the polls. And we kept going. We had a clear plan. We had a strong team, and we came through and won the election. So, anything is possible. And I always think during election, time spent talking about opinion polls is just time completely wasted, because, you don't know whether they're right. I don't know whether they're right. And I believe anything can happen. I believe that anything can happen, and we've got to get out there and keep fighting, as Rishi Sunak's doing. He's fighting an extraordinarily energetic campaign, in my view. Normally at the end of 14 years, you find a party that's tired and run out of ideas. And with us, you've seen the ideas for national service, for keeping the pension out of tax, for cutting stamp duty for first-time buyers, the really important decision to increase defence spending in this dangerous and uncertain world. It's been a very agenda-setting, very energetic campaign that he's leading. And as I say, anything is possible. And what we've got to do is not think about, can we win? Will we win? What will the result be? We just get out there and do the very best we can. And the more people that vote for us, the more chance we have. I want us to win. I think we've got a Prime Minister that has really passed the key test over the last couple of years of steering the economy after the terrible problems of the Ukraine war and COVID, of getting us back from inflation being 11% to 2% and the economy growing again. That's a huge test he's passed, and that's what we're focused on. And the public will decide whether it's a majority or a minority or whatever. And I'm not going to spend this election campaign talking about potential results, because I'm a participant, not a commentator.
I asked him a couple of times. He could have said yes at any. So, do you think you're going to win?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you going to beat Real Madrid? Yeah, we're going to give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that. He said the campaign has been agenda setting. That's probably right. But he said the party doesn't seem tired as well.
He said it doesn't seem tired after 14 years, and that the national service policy shows that the Tories are still inventive. Is that true? Meanwhile, Wes Streeting for Labour did not rule out a rise in capital gains tax in Labour's manifesto today.
We're now in the state of the campaign where you can read Labour's messages back to me. This is terrifying for the next 3 weeks. But on a serious note, the reason why Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer picked those three taxes was to send a really strong message to working people who've been clobbered with tax rises year after year, that we understand. It is true to say when people see our manifesto, they will see that there's nothing in there that requires us to raise any of those taxes. We are being really careful about the promises we make, because the bar for getting into the manifesto has been a bar of, is this something we can 100% deliver? And is this something we should assure the country can afford? So we've been careful on that. But to be fair to Rachel Reeves, she's shown time and time again that she believes quite sincerely that the tax burden in this country is far too high. The central argument Labour's making today, and the argument Keir's putting front and centre, is we've got to get this country back to economic growth. It's a high tax economy. We've got to turn that equation on its head.
That's Wes Streeting from Labour. They're being careful about what goes in the manifesto.
Let's talk to Andrew Neil. Times Radio is the home of the election. It's the home of the Andrew Neil Show. He'll be with us at 1 o'clock like normal. Morning, Andrew.
Good morning to you.
The theme of Labour, I'm maybe getting wrongly and naively wound up about all of this, Andrew, but basically what they're saying is we want to win at all costs, and therefore we don't want to say anything that might trouble you, so we're only going to focus on the things that won't trouble you. Now, maybe that's right. It's certainly politically expedient, but they seem to be saying the silent part aloud a little bit, but maybe that's just politics.
Well, it's a good election strategy. If you're well ahead, don't do anything to frighten the horses and just keep to the script, which is doing so well. And nothing they say seems to be changing things. Nothing the Tories say seems to be changing things. So just keep on the script. I mean, the part of the story that is hard to grapple with because no one's saying anything is that most people who are following this closely realize there will be tax rises when Labour gets into power. They've ruled out raising income tax. They've ruled out raising national insurance. They've ruled out raising VAT. Take these three together, that accounts for 60% of the tax base. Well, that leaves, by simple arithmetic, 40% of the tax base that they could still play with. Now, 40% of £1 trillion, because that's what tax revenues are these days, £1 trillion, that's £400 billion to play with. And capital gains tax, the pension contribution deductions, which are very expensive on income tax, perhaps council tax bans as well. These are all taxes that will come into play, and they will come into play because Labour otherwise will have no money to do what Labour governments want to do. So I don't think there's any doubt that taxes will rise when Labour gets into power. They're just not telling us, and they don't need to tell us at the moment.
And do they not need to tell us? I mean, morally they maybe need to tell us, but one of the reasons they don't need to tell us is because ultimately there's a slight fear, and we had Grant Shapps on our show yesterday effectively saying the main battle is to stop Labour getting a supermajority, which is kind of giving up. Even with David Cameron today, who is, I think, more bullish and more polished, he couldn't actually say, hand on heart, he definitely believed they could win the election. That fear that the Tories are giving up really hands this to Labour, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I mean, they've already sold the pass, and the Tory strategy now is trying to keep down the size of the Labour majority. By the way, that won't work. People don't vote to try and keep down the majority of the other side. It's not how it works. It's a complete waste of time. There's nothing the Tories will say will change the size of the Labour majority. I mean, if you spoke to Tory MPs a while back, they said if we ended up with 200 seats, that'd be a great result. Now they're saying the best they can hope for is around 1997, when they had about 167 MPs. Now, remember, that was the worst result the Conservatives have had since, I think, the 1830s under Lord Liverpool, or the 1820s. So the Tories are now saying that the best result they can hope for is equivalent to the worst result they've had in like 160, 170 years. And some are saying that even that's not attainable, that it'll be even lower than that. So that does leave it open to Labour, frankly, in the early days to be able to do what it wants. The get out of jail card Labour is giving itself is we have no plans to increase taxes of working people, hence the three taxes they've named. But are no working people hit if you increase capital gains tax? Are no working people hit if you take away pension benefit tax deduction? Are no working people hit if you revalue council house tax bans? In that third one there are definitely very many working people who will be hit if you revalue council tax bans, for which there's a strong case. But you can't say it won't hit ordinary working people.